Hey everybody, Dom here. I got a Steam key for Sandbox, so I thought I'd show off the game. What if there was a game that was Garry's Mod 2 on the Source 2 engine, but better? And that essentially is what Sandbox is. It's in super early development, but looks to be very promising. Let me explain the gameplay of Sandbox. As the game's title suggests, it's a sandbox. Like Garry's Mod, people come in with their programming and map-making skills and produce fun game modes on top of the foundation that is Source 2's fun and quirky lighting, scripting, and physics engine. Let's load up the game. Here we are on the main menu. This fine gentleman on the left, following my mouse cursor, is my avatar. He can't be modified as the interface for doing such a thing hasn't been implemented yet. Here we are in the graphics settings. Outside of resolution and VSync, they've yet to be implemented. It's a good thing I've spent years playing Source 1 games, so I have basically all the graphical commands memorized. I'll just keep everything at default for now, so the experience is the same for everyone who plays this game. Speaking of console commands, opening the developer console pushes the screen into a small top area and places the console on the bottom. This was super jarring to me the first time I saw it. I don't know if all the buttons on top will be permanent things once the game releases, but they seem to be super useful for development. Let's move on. I have no idea what this button next to games does, as there's no text when you hover over it, and clicking it brings you into an empty area. The buttons next to my Steam profile picture on top are for adding friends to a party. The button on the right with the two silhouettes indicates friends on Steam who are in-game. The rightmost button exits the game. The button with the beaker goes into a menu to test user interface elements. I think the intention is if you're a person creating custom game modes and want to include custom UI elements or menus, you can use this area to help you. Speaking of game modes, clicking games loads up this menu which allows you to browse the game modes. All of this is subject to change, but as of the time of recording this, the emojis are used to narrow down what game modes you're looking for. Since Sandbox is in super early development, there aren't a lot of people playing. The numbers with the red background indicates how many people are playing the corresponding game mode. Let's look at a few game modes. Sandbox is the main mode. After selecting a mode, you can select the map. Sandbox, the game, not the game mode, seems to use a cloud-based system where your game will download the game mode's code and the maps as you go. If content creators update their mode or maps, the newer version automatically gets downloaded the next time you play it. Anyways, this is Sandbox's version of Construct. It's fun to check back over and over and see slight changes as this map continues to get updated over time. In this game mode, you get an assortment of tools to mess around with. Garry's Mod veterans will likely be familiar with them. There's a tool to place down lights, a tool to place down ropes, and a tool to interact with physics props. Speaking of physics props, they can be spawned from a menu. Additionally, entities can be spawned such as a car, a lamp, and guns. Unrelated to this game mode, one thing that I have to mention is I love strafe jumping, and I love that strafe jumping is still a thing in Sandbox. Strafe jumping is the best unintentional game mechanic in 3D first-person games. This is not a joke. The feeling of controlling your character is very important. Look at the development of Super Mario 64. The first thing they did was make sure Mario's movement was fun by itself, then they designed levels for the game. With all that said, I think the default Sandbox falling speed could be slightly increased. Also, it's a bit silly how the street's curb stops movement. The height threshold where the game decides to allow players to ascend automatically should be increased. Next game mode. Cinema is a cinema where you and others can watch YouTube videos together. For some reason, there's a row of seats out of bounds, and the game lags when the video is playing. Next game mode. Michael, it's your birthday today. Where the rats, just where the rats. Michael, such a good boy this year. Where the rats, just where the rats. Open up your gifts while we all cheer. NPC Zombie Horde is a simple zombie shooter mode made by my friend where green NPCs chase you down. The camera tilts left and right depending on the player's movement, which can be jarring at first. I find it funny that when the zombies die, their heads pop off. Humorous! Next game mode. A few game modes are ports of existing games made to test what's possible in Sandbox. Flybird is a port of Flappy Bird. It perfectly simulates the fun of the original. All 0% of it. Space Rocks is a port of Asteroids. It's impressive in a technical sense, but, like the previous game mode, isn't appealing to play for very long. Blubber Runner is a port of Body Race, a more modern phone game. The music is really bad, but it's probably intentional. The game seems to exist as a parody or critique of the genre and modern phone games. Let's move on. A lot of game modes that you'd associate as staples of Garry's Mod make a return, such as Jailbreak, Prop Hunt, Death Run, and Trouble in Terrorist Town under a new name. I can't really demonstrate these as they require multiple players and no one's playing them right now. Well, that's about it for the game itself in terms of experiencing content. There's also the other half of the game, creating content. I have no idea if this is the correct way to access this. In Sandbox's folder, there's a second exe called Sandbox Dev. Opening it opens the asset browser, and from there it's possible to open Hammer, the material editor, particle editor, Source 2 Filmmaker, Face Poser, etc. This is a good time to talk about Sandbox's wiki. It's basically an essential tool to understand how to use these tools. Now, let's make a huge contradiction by loading up Hammer without doing any research whatsoever. And here we are in Hammer, the map editor. Without knowing what any button does or how anything works, I've managed to cobble together this one-room map. I absolutely love the convenience of lighting appearing in the editor. It is so much easier seeing lighting changes as you make changes rather than compiling maps over and over to see lighting changes. I can't believe we as humans used to live like caveman and not have lighting that updates in real time. I don't know if I could go back to making maps in Team Fortress 2 after experiencing lighting changes in real time. The room contains a spawn point, a light, the sun, and a staircase prefab I pasted into the map. I never made anything before in Source 2, so I don't know if it's necessary to seal the world off from the void like it is in Source 1, but I did anyways with these skybox textures. The room also contains this weird Mickey Mouse shaped thing. I have no idea what the heck this thing is. Nothing appears when I double click it. It's not a prop. It doesn't appear to be a brush. It's not an entity. It's not displacement as far as I can tell. It's just a weird misshapen anomaly. I think I understand how scientists felt when they discovered plasma. Up until then, you only know the world as having 3 states of matter, solid, liquid, and gas, and then you discover a 4th state of matter and can't comprehend it at first. Anyways, I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me what the heck this thing is. Let's compile and view the map in-game. Here we are. If I shoot boxes at the sky, they vanish. It's weirdly possible to fall off the world. I find that strange as in Source 1, skybox textures are solid to player collision and you can't fall into the void. And that's about it for this first impressions video on Sandbox. Overall, I think it's really cool. I can easily see this project evolving into something immense and impressive. Is Sandbox the future of gaming? Perhaps. I gotta say, writing this script, the script I'm reading off of right now, that's how I make videos, I write scripts and read off of them, like I'm doing right now. The name Sandbox is super annoying to type out over and over, so the entire time I've kept it in my clipboard for ease of use. Every time that I say Sandbox, know that it represents a time I clicked Ctrl+V in the past. Thanks for watching! If you'd like me to talk about, review, or try something specific in Sandbox, tell me in the comments and maybe it'll be the subject of a future video. Au revoir!